All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's make sure we're live. You guys know how that goes. I had a weird dream. Twitter is always first. Twitter always goes live first. And I had this dream. It was a very short and quite frankly boring dream, but it was a dream that Twitter was just randomly not first. The Twitter was like last or something. I didn't realize this camera got bumped. Here, let me try to tweak this a little bit, folks. Sorry, I'm a little scattered today. Uh, you'll find out why in a second. Oh, that's way too much. Sorry, guys, I didn't notice this before we logged on here, so you're getting it live. All right, we haven't officially begun, so that's not much better, but it's a little better. Sorry about that. All right. God, that's gonna bother me. Here, let me see if I can. I'll fix it. I'll fix it on the permanent later. But yeah. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone in my time zone. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. We are live. We are feeling it. And to everyone watching the podcast or listening rather to the podcast later, leave us a 5-star review, would you? A 5-star review would be totally dope. That'd be neat. Go ahead and do that. Oh, wait, we go. Rockfin. Okay. I'm a little scattered today, folks. I'm having this is one of those days where do you ever have one of those days where you're just having a hard time concentrating on anything? That's today for me. Why, Ron? Well, some of you might already know this, but after today, I am going to be taking a break for a little while because I am going to be out of town for a little while, and I am going to Italy for a family affair, a good family affair. So it's all good stuff. But yeah, I'm going out to Italy. That's part of the reason why we're talking about Italy today. They got an election coming up. I'm actually going to be in Italy for election day. This was not planned on purpose, by the way. It's not like I was just like, oh man, it's gonna. But I found out it was going to be election day, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. I'll be out there for their election day. Maybe I should read up on it. And some of you may have heard this already because it's made international news. The leading person for prime minister is a fascist. That's definitionally what people are saying. She is a fascist. She's part of one of their far right parties, and we're gonna dive into it now. As you guys know, I'm not. Italian politics is not my area of expertise. I do not live in Italy. I might someday, but I don't now. Which gets me to a couple housekeeping things before we dive in. So first of all, we're going to be going on a hiatus for a little bit after today's episode. This is going to be the last podcast slash live stream for a couple weeks because I will be out of the country. I might be popping in with some goofy short videos here and there, especially on election day. If I capture anything interesting, I will share it with the internet. I can't promise I will or won't, but if anything interesting happens and I'm there for it, I will turn on the camera on my phone and share it with the internet when I can. I don't know if I'll be able to live stream at any point, like from my phone. I don't know if I guess I could. I mean, they have, I guess the data would be the same pretty much. But anyway, you get the idea. So we're going to be on hiatus for a few weeks because I will be out of the country. And the next thing I wanted to mention, because this sort of parallels with, I don't think I formally made this announcement, the Expatriate series that I had been doing. Now, some of you guys may remember I was doing a series called Expatriate, which was all about different ways to leave the United States, everything from visas to dual citizenship to just different ways to look to what specific countries look for. We did an episode doing a deep dive into a common misconception that is out there. I mean, different provinces that are out there, like, oh, you can get Estonian citizenship for $250. That's not actually true. We did a deep dive into why that rumor exists and how it isn't true and what it actually refers to. So anyway, that series, I have decided to put that series on pause until I finish what I'm going through, because I am in the middle of that process myself. Um, and I figured it would be best if I finished that process and then got back to the series, as opposed to doing the series as I'm going through that process myself, and kind of just stumbling as I go. I'd rather just sort of stumble, finish stumbling, then come back to the series and say, this is where I stumbled. This is how you can avoid stumbling that way. And here's the series. So that's what's going on there. The series will be back, but I'm going to get through the process myself first. How long will that take? It's really tough to say. It could take not very long. It could take a while. But that's the status on Expatriate. It will be back, hopefully within the next year, but who knows? It could take even longer than that. But it will be back. Promise. Okay. Some of you guys are asking, is she a Mussolini apologist? Yes, she is. And then Pittsburgh Dude, you're also asking, are you going to walk on an Italian beach? I am for sure going to walk on an Italian beach. Yes, that is for sure going to happen. Because we definitely got some beach time planned. In fact, there's for the my cousin's getting married. That's the main reason for the trip. And the next day there's like a big beach thing planned. It's Anyway, I won't go into all the details. We got some news to get to, but I am very excited, and thank you guys for your well wishes here on the chat. I appreciate it very much. And if I seem a little scattered today, you guys know that's why. I'm getting ready. I'm heading out tomorrow. So I'm kind of a little, that day where you're just like, that's me right now. I do have one more piece of housekeeping, though, before we continue. Another thing with Get Your News On with Ron, there may be a hiatus in the wintertime at some point for me to work on my movie. That's in the maybe column. Of course, I'll be announcing it once it is confirmed one way or the other. Well, I guess if it isn't going to happen, I won't say anything because the podcast will just go on like usual. But we may be taking a little break from the podcast so that I can work on my movie. The reason for that, so coming up in November, as you guys know, I am the Thursday co-host over at Status Coup. I co-host over at Status Coup every Thursday, except for the next couple of weeks coming up because, again, I'm going to be out of the country. But once I return Thursday, that's my day at Status Coup. Jordan Sheraton is going to be taking a break in the wintertime in November and possibly even sooner than that. So I will be filling in more at Status Coup when that happens. And I will also be working on my movie some during that time. So depending on the scheduling of everything, I may or may not be able to, you get the idea. But I'll be making a formal announcement. But for now, that's just, there might be a break so that I can work on my movie. Your movie is behind schedule? Not really. There isn't really a schedule. Is it over budget? No, it's not over budget. We haven't started using the budget yet because we haven't actually started yet. It's been trying to build a team, which takes a long time. So, no, my movie's not behind schedule. It is not over budget. But thank you for the questions. Much appreciated. All right, let's get to this. So this is from Brookings. What happens if right-wing Giorgia Meloni wins Italy's election? So that's the favorite for Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who is a fascist. Current polls give a high probability that a right-wing coalition will win Italy's next election on September 25th. Giorgia Meloni, leader of Brothers of Italy, Fratelli d'Italia, the right-wing party that is heading to the polls, could become Italy's first female prime minister. But if she wins, she will also be its first head of government whose political party has never fully renounced its fascist background. Do you renounce your fascist background? Well, okay, that's a no. If you didn't fully renounce fascism, you might be a fascist. Ask anyone who's not a fascist. Hey, fascism, are you a fan? No, not a fan at all. It's an evil thing. Okay. If someone's like, well, they're a fascist. Spoiler alert. That's not there are a lot of, it's interesting how all of the things where nuance belongs, we're never nuanced about. But some of the things where there's not really much room for nuance, that's where we're like, and when I say we, I mean the collective society, we, especially here in the United States, where we're such a fringe far right country. It's nuts. But like, we're gonna get more into that in a second. But yeah, it's there's no room for nuance when it's like fascism. Are you okay with it or not? There's some in between. No, there isn't. You're either against it or you're a fascist. That's it. Sometimes there's only two options. That's a situation where there's only two options. So they're fascist. I mean, really. They haven't renounced it. Well, that's because they're fascist. There you go. And by the way, when we say fascist, here's the difference. Let me also mention this. Here's the difference between the United States and a lot of other, Western pseudo democracies like Italy, England, France, or whatever, Germany. Over there, their media, which by the way has plenty of problems, there's plenty of problems with the BBC. Is it as bad as what we have in the United States? No, it isn't. I'm sorry, it's not. But it still has its problems. But one thing that they do over there that we really don't do in the United States is they will call a fascist. And by fascist, by definition of the word, you're for the marriage of corporation and government. And you're for just private ownership. I mean, it's basically just capitalism brought to its end. So, they will call a fascist. That's why you see a lot of things like she's a fascist, because they actually call her that because it's accurate. They will call it anti-Semite an anti-Semite. Sometimes it'll be bullshit, like when they call Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite. That's bullshit. But, you get the idea. They will call, like, they don't, I guess to put it really simply, they don't mince words as much over there. Whereas here in the United States, we're like, well, they're part of the more moderate arm of the because guess what? Here in the United States, if we called politicians that are actually fascists, we'd be calling most of them fascists because it'd be freaking accurate. In fact, that'll be my message to Italy. I'll be like, hey guys, I'm from the U.S. I don't know. We've been elected fascists for 40 years, at least. I can tell you it doesn't work out so great. I know that you guys have done it before, but it's been a minute. Although I guess one could argue Silvio Berlusconi was a fascist. I mean, I think that's fair. So Italy does it too. But they did it. The main first time they did it, that was didn't work out so great. Didn't work out so great for the country, and then the dude at the end didn't work out so good for him either. But all right, so let's get back to this. But I thought that was like an important precursor. Like during her campaign, Maloney alternated between reassuring and extremely controversial statements about her political agenda. She also ambiguously defined former Prime Minister Mussolini as a personality who needs to be framed in a specific historical context. So there's the answer to the question. Is she a Mussolini apologist? Yes, she is. She's a Mussolini apologist. It needs to be framed in a specific historical context. Okay. The election comes almost exactly 100 years after Mussolini's march on Rome that opened the way to his dictatorship. Okay, so here's another thing I wanted to go to about all this. And then a little bit more into what she will specifically do if elected, because I think thematically this is a very, very common story. Let's go here first, and then I'm going to kind of give my my conclusion here. Italian politics has been this is from The Guardian. Italian politics has been in trouble for decades. Now it's heading for a new low. If Giorgia Meloni comes to power at the head of a far-right coalition, the economic and social outcomes could be terrible. So earlier this month, so here's what happened over in Florence. Now, Florence is a center-left city. It's a relatively progressive city in Italy. I think some of the furthest left places in Italy, and again, I'm not fluent in Italian politics, but I think among the more left-leaning places in Italy, Bologna, pretty big lefty city. It's a big college town. That's probably why. And Livorno, that's the home of the Communist Party. That's where the Communist Party in Italy started. and it's also home to a lot of the docker unions and stuff like that because it's a big port city. In fact, they're the ones who started refusing to take the weapons for Israel. They refused to ship the weapons. They started that. That started in Livorno, and the unions in Livorno who said we're not gonna send these weapons of war. So earlier this month, Alessio Di Giulio, a Florentine councillor with right-wing populist party The League, posted a 17-second video that, to my mind, this is the author of this piece, marks the nadir of what has been one of the most grotesque Italian election campaigns of recent memory. In the clip, Dr. Julio strolls through the historic center of Florence when he comes across a woman who appears to be of Roma origin. Stopping in his track, the candidate leans into the camera and implores his audience to vote The League to never see her again. A phrase he repeats 3 times for rhetorical effect. Most Italians were appalled, and the video went viral, which was his hope all along. You can see it from the smile of his face. So basically, he did this prank. And prank is, when I say prank, I don't mean like, oh, it was just a prank. I mean, it was a hateful, disgusting thing to do, and he did it on purpose. It wasn't a real attempt at winning votes. It was more like just an F you, us fascists are taking over. And here's the deal. That's about all they offer. Hateful rhetoric and scapegoating immigrants and scapegoating gay people and scapegoating basically the other. Just xenophobic bullshit is all they bring to the table. And this is a story that sounds quite familiar because there's this whole little anti-establishment notion, but not anti-establishment in the true sense. Anti-establishment in the sense of, oh, they're going to stand up for us. They're going to stand up for us here. They're going to put us first. Are they? Or are they just going to give you a bunch of bullshit about how all of your problems are because of the immigrant or because of insert marginalized group that we're going to scapegoat here because we don't actually have any ideas? It's the latter. That's what it is. Because guess what? There are some reasons to be upset with the EU right now. Excuse me. There are some reasons to be upset with the EU right now. The biggest one. So first of all, the EU has been screwing people over. And by people, I mean like their member states, because the EU is basically making these geopolitical decisions where they're just like, okay, we're not going to get any energy from Russia, or we're not willing to pay for it. So now there's an energy shortage. And they're also going out of their way to support, quote unquote, support Ukraine. So they're getting a bunch of grain from Ukraine. So now they have all this cheap grain and it's oversaturated. So they're screwing over local farmers. So because they're basing decisions on geopolitics and not just ending the conflict, it's screwing over all the people in the EU. And it's at the behest of American imperialism, mostly American imperialism. So that's what they're doing. Those are good reasons to be pissed off. You should be pissed off. So is Meloni some fascist? Is she the answer to that? Well, she supports American imperialism. She's an imperialist. What else is going on? Okay, so this is another piece from The Guardian. Here we go. Far-right favorite to be Italy's next PM softens on EU as the election looms. All right, so at a gathering of Europe's far-right in February 2020, the leader of the Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, railed against the Brussels techno-bureaucrats who she said wanted to oppose the Soviet plan to destroy national and religious identity. Now on the brink of becoming Italy's first far-right prime minister since Mussolini. So Berlusconi didn't qualify as a far-right prime minister? According to this Guardian piece, Berlusconi didn't qualify. I mean, Mussolini did, obviously. But I guess Berlusconi, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Berlusconi was pretty far right by their standards. I mean, in the United States, he could run as a Democrat if he wanted to. But by Italy's standards, he was pretty far right. Anyway, let's see. Meloni is sounding a rather different tune. In an opinion article, blah, 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 Meloni said she wanted to work in compliance with European regulations and in agreement with the European Commission to use EU resources to promote Italy's growth and innovation. Speaking in a video message broadcast in English, French, and Spanish, she hit back at the absurd narrative her party would jeopardize Italy's access to the $195.5 billion euro funds in EU COVID recovery funds. So basically, here's the deal. She's not an anti-imperialist. So she's not going to go against the bad things the EU is doing. She's just going to go along with that. And by the way, some of the good things the EU is doing, like giving billions in COVID recovery funds, she's not going to balk at that either, nor should she. She shouldn't do that. Whoever the prime minister, whether it's her or anyone else, nobody should. I mean, you should, that's a good thing, especially since one of the things they want to do in Italy in particular is build high-speed internet everywhere. They want to build municipal broadband everywhere in Italy. So she's not going to go against the bad things of the EU, and she's certainly not going to go against the good things of the EU. Because, and again, as she shouldn't, because it'd be political suicide to do so. Oh, we're gonna thumb our nose at billions in COVID recovery. That's what we're gonna do. Although different governors in the United States do stuff like that. So, but they're probably not going to do that on this scale. So really, she's not some outsider who's gonna go nose to the wall to solve the problems that the EU is causing. All she is a fascist who's just going to tell you that all your problems are because of the immigrant. That's it. And this sounds familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't this sound familiar? Oh, Trump's an outsider. Trump's an outsider. He's going to put America first. He's going to change our status on the world stage by giving us some different allies, by mixing it up. Trump's no outsider. Trump's just another bureaucrat. He's fine with the war machine. He kept it on autopilot. He just instilled a bunch of hateful rhetoric and tried to get you to blame all the problems on the people coming from Mexico. That's all. That's all he did. That's it. This story sounds familiar, doesn't it? This story sounds freaking familiar. So I see a lot of parallels. So that's what's Italy goes to vote in a couple days here. They vote on the 25th. I think that's Sunday. Yeah, I believe that's Sunday. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on their election day. But right now, the favorite is the fascist Meloni, who they think is going to. Some people think oh, she's an outsider. She's going to stand up to some of the bullshit the EU's doing. No, she's not, because all the bullshit that they're doing is because of imperialism. And she's for that. So, yeah. And by the way, I mean, there's, when I saw the solutions of the EU for the energy crisis, some of the solutions were very bad because they were just geopolitical things. Well, we're gonna come down on Russia, blah blah blah, and then we're gonna get this grain from Ukraine that we don't need, instead of just calling for an end to the conflict. Again, when I say this stuff, it doesn't mean I'm okay with what Putin's doing. I'm not. I'm against what Putin's doing. I'm also against arming these militias in Ukraine. I'm also against what the United States is doing, using Ukraine as a pawn. And especially these factions in Ukraine, some of whom are neo-Nazis. I'm against all of it. I'm for the people. I'm for the people in Russia who are protesting what their government is doing, many of them. I'm for the people of Ukraine who are just trying to live their lives and they're being used as pawns in this. And I'm against what American imperialism has done, escalating it to this point. Again, that doesn't mean what Putin's doing is okay. It isn't. But, yeah. So you get it. You get it. Let's see. Darren, I think you're asking me a question that's a little bit above my my comprehension here. But you're asking me, do I think 5 stars still stands a chance? As far as the prime minister goes, I'm not. I mean, I don't know all the details about the different, the different options that are out there or what alliance 5 Star is part of. So for anybody who is not familiar, 5 Star Movement is a movement I don't know a ton about it. I know a little bit about it. Um, it's fascinating. I will say that about the movement. So Five Star Movement is a political party in Italy that has grown a lot in recent years, and they are kind of going on this. We are not right or left. We are like a post-partisan movement. We are for the people. So they identify as populist, although that term has been very bastardized in the United States. Populism, by definition, is a very left-wing thing, but it's been bastardized in the United States. Read "The People Know" by Thomas Frank if you want a true assessment of what populism means in the United States. But I'd imagine the term has been bastardized in Italy the same way it has in the United States. But anyway, so they are loosely like a populism, whatever that actually means, movement. And so they were started by a comedian named Beppe Grillo. Now, Beppe Grillo, to my knowledge, was on TV a bunch back in the day. He's not a super young guy. I think he's in his 70s. Back in the day, he was on TV a bunch, like in the 70s and stuff. And then he left. And he came back and he's like, I can't say what I want to say on TV. So I'm going to go to different mediums. So he started a blog that got very popular, and he kind of built this online centric movement where people would meet up in cafes and stuff. This led to that political party. And some of their platform is quite interesting. First of all, they're big on climate change, which is great. They're also big on municipal broadband, which is great. But then you read other things and they're super anti-immigrant. So I would read about them and I'd be like, well, I'm not okay with that part. That part's really bad. And also, I guess if I ever moved to Italy, you wouldn't want me around anyway because I'd be an immigrant. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, well, if you guys hate immigrants, I guess I'm out. Because if I ever moved to Italy, I'd be an immigrant. But and I know that there's also, you have to be careful of eco-fash, and eco-fash stands for eco-fascism, which is definitely a real thing. I, based on what I've seen, I don't think I would say that is the Five Star Movement. I wouldn't say that the Five Star Movement is an eco-fash movement. Again, I only know so much about it, but I know that there are definitely lefties who have, who have voted for them and have like been okay with a coalition and them with them. So Darren, you also say, I think it was left wing in its founding. It might be a bit like Andrew Yang's party. I think you're being a little too hard on him. I just said they have platform ideas. Andrew Yang's party doesn't have any platform ideas. They at least, Five Star Movement does have a platform. I don't know. I mean, maybe it like changes a bunch. Because I've also, and again, these are from grumblings that I just kind of see online. And a lot of this stuff, it's hard to find anything in English. It's hard to find anything like in English. I mean, I do speak Italian, but my Italian is not advanced enough that I can read, like political, you know what I mean? Like political philosophies, like my Italian is not advanced enough for that. I'm able to follow a children's story. So, yeah, I can't really, yeah. Yeah, you know what, Darren, that's another interesting point. I don't know why Beppe Grillo himself doesn't run. As far as I know, he hasn't, and I don't know. Maybe I mean, he might have at some point in his career. Again, the guy's been doing this work for a long, long freaking time. So he may have very well ran for office at some point. And I'm sure, like, if we hopped on his Wikipedia page, we'd see. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't run himself at this point, because the Five Star Movement has gotten pretty significant in Italy. It's one of their major, I believe it's one of their bigger parties at this point. And you kind of need them for a coalition, and they're kind of neither left or right. So they're kind of like, I mean, I guess they're kind of in their own lane. So yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't at this point in time really want to make a mark and run. Maybe he just doesn't want to be on that side of it, which I can't say I blame the guy if that's the case. Again, I mean, I'm still But that's my take on what's going on. I see a big parallel to what you see in other parts of the world where it's like, you know, the idea of quote unquote taking care of our own. And now I'm just kind of speaking from a thematic standpoint here. The idea of taking care of our own is a good thing. That on its surface is a very positive thing. Of course, you want to take care of the people who live in a country. And when you see a country getting screwed over by geopolitical bureaucracy and war and other things that don't have to do with that specific country, of course you're going to get frustrated, as you should be frustrated. But when you take it to a place of xenophobia, well, that's not the answer. Now you're counterproductive and hateful because that isn't the answer. The answer is to, try to get together to solve conflict and to try to seek solutions for your country. Getting decent relief is going to be a good thing. Extensive municipal broadband, that's going to be a good thing. Trying to be stewards to the earth, that's a good thing. Looking into domestic job programs, that's a good thing. Blaming the immigrant for all of your problems, that's a shitty thing. That's a bad thing. And that's what Maloney offers. And that's what candidates like that offer. And that's what the far right offers. But people are buying it because they think they're going to look out for Italy. No, they're not. They're still just bureaucrats. They're still imperialists. They're just gonna throw scapegoats at you. That's all. That's all. And yes, someone's bringing up similar things are happening in Sweden right now. I mean, we should just go around the world and warn people like, hey, we've been doing that in the United States a long time. It doesn't work. And imagine if the United States media, if our corporate media called fascist, they'd be saying it constantly. But so there you go. I think that's all I have to say about that. DBRH, you bring up, no, Ron, if you have Italian parentage, you can apply for Italian citizenship. Yes, I know. That's actually what I am in the process of doing. But if I ever moved over there, I would still be, I think I would still be considered an immigrant. But you know what I mean? Like social, even though technically, well, no, you'd be an Italian citizen. But I think what I mean is in the eyes of people who are opposed to immigrants, I would be an immigrant because I am somebody from a foreign place who came to their country. I do have Italian heritage, but I was not born in Italy. I am not an Italian. I am an Italian American. If I were to come over there, even if it was via citizenship by descent, which it likely would be, either I'd already have it or I'd go over there to get it. But I would still be, in the eyes of somebody who is opposed to immigrants, I would still be an immigrant in their eyes. So yeah, that was what I meant by that statement. But yeah, you are correct. You are correct. So let's go to antitrust. Let's bring it back to the American shores, folks. Although I kind of just want to babble about Italy, y'all, because I'm getting ready for my trip. But let's go back to our shores because I have been pushing antitrust all summer, and it's been frustrating because, well, here's what's going on. Here's what's going on right now. So throughout the summer, I've been pushing antitrust summer, which is there are two bills floating around Congress right now, OMA and ACOA. And they would be historic antitrust legislation that would start breaking up big tech. They'd start ending some of the monopolistic practices of Google and Amazon and Apple. And they'd level the playing field a lot better for independent apps, for further innovation on the internet. And it'd be a huge, important step in preserving the internet as we know it. So I've been pushing antitrust all summer. And big tech really doesn't want these votes to happen because it has been, by the way, it's been over 100 days since Chuck Schumer promised to vote on antitrust legislation. Still hasn't done it. Now, why hasn't he done it? Well, his daughters work for Amazon and Meta, which is Facebook, and Big tech's been working hard, baby. Check this out. Big tech's $95 million spending spree leaves antitrust bill on brink of defeat. Google, Apple, and Amazon and others, Google, Apple, and others spent nearly $95 million on lobbying. A high-profile push by Congress to rein in the nation's biggest internet companies is at risk or failing with time running out to pass major legislation ahead of the midterm elections. Alphabet's Google, Apple, Amazon, and Meta platforms and their trade groups have poured almost $95 million into lobbying since 2021. Here's one of the things they did recently. This one's kind of funny. Check this out, y'all. This is something that they did recently. They actually funded a fake grassroots organization. Check this out. Apple's quietly funding an AstroTurf lobbying group. Washington, D.C. tech industry group, the App Association, boldly refers to itself as the leading industry voice on the app economy and says it represents more than 5,000 app makers and connected to device companies spread out across 27 countries worldwide. What the App Association's website doesn't say, more than half of its estimated $9 million worth comes from Apple. So this is a fake organization. This is a fake grassroots organization that says they're for independent apps and over 5,000 app makers. In reality, they're funded by Apple. So they're against OMA. What is OMA? OMA is a bill that that requires Apple to level its playing field for independent apps by ending their high commission rates that they charge independent apps and allowing users to decide what software works on their devices. See, what they do now is they have a near monopoly because they won't let certain apps work on your device, and they also charge exorbitant fees to independent app makers. OMA ends all that, and everybody's for it. So now Apple has funded this fake grassroots organization, and they're like, yeah, no, OMA's a bad thing. We represent a bunch of app makers, 5,000 of them. Actually, you're getting over half your money from Apple. This is a fake grassroots organization. Don't tell anybody. So that's what some of this $95 million is being spent on. And now, of course, they're setting us up for disappointment. Check this out. This is from Time Magazine. Remember when Time magazines were like everywhere back in the day of magazines, by the way? Senate vote on a big antitrust bill unlikely before election, key players say. So they're already trying to set us up for defeat. A high-profile antitrust bill intended to curb the power of tech giants like Amazon and Google appears to have enough support to pass the Congress, but likely won't be voted on before Election Day. This is what Josh Hawley said. Co-sponsored the legislation. He says, doubt it. Which, by the way, shows you how bipartisan this legislation is. Everyone from Bernie Sanders to Josh Hawley wants this legislation to pass. Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley co-wrote some of this legislation because people on the right and the left and everywhere in between, they're pissed off at big tech. Now, we might have our different reasons for being pissed off at big tech, and we might not always agree on the solutions, but we all agree that big tech is bullshit and they have entirely too much power. That we agree on. So these bills would frickin' pass. But they're setting us up. And again, Chuck Schumer's not bringing it to the vote because of his own conflicts of interest. And his conflicts of interest are so severe that people are straight up asking him to just recuse himself. Here's another article from Bloomberg. Groups push Schumer to recuse himself from big tech legislation. Groups say Schumer has a conflict due to his daughter's employment. The majority leader says he supports the bill, hasn't set a vote. Yeah, he supports it, but he hasn't set a vote on it. He says that he's worried the votes aren't there. Sure, buddy. So look, you guys know what I'm going to say next. Because here, time has not run out. There is still time. But we got to act, and we got to act now. And there is a new call to action. Go to antitrustvotenow.com. Antitrustvotenow.com. It's been 125 days, 13 hours, 42 minutes, and 3 seconds as of the recording of this. Now it's at 6 seconds. 7, 8, you get the idea. Since Schumer promised to vote on this antitrust legislation. You can sign this petition. It goes directly to your lawmakers, and it tells them we demand the vote on antitrust, and we demand it now. This can't wait until after the midterms. This has to happen now. So antitrustvotenow.com. Please act. Please act. It takes less than 40 seconds. Please sign this petition. This is the way we fight back. And Christian Smalls has been tweeting about this, which has been really cool to see. I've been tweeting about it. Antitrustvotenow.com. Been working on this campaign all summer, folks. And you guys know me. I don't like losing. And neither should the planet. We should not tolerate losing. So that's the update there. That's the update there. The clock is running out. There is still time. And big tech has spent millions trying to beat these bills. That's why you know they're good bills. You know they're good bills when big tech spends over $95 million to try to beat them and sets up fake grassroots organizations to try to beat these bills. Guys, 2023 tour dates, I'm going to be announcing them very soon. Maybe after I get back. If not, maybe after I get back. Probably then. Probably after I get back, because that'll be early October. We will be taking a break. As I announced earlier, we will be taking a break from this show for a couple weeks. I will be back basically after October 8th. I will be back. So whatever the next Wednesday is after that will likely be when this show returns. And in the meantime, be good to each other. I will miss you all. And go to antitrustvotenow.com and go to romplacone.com. And I'll probably be dropping some stuff here and there while I'm out there. Anything I see that's interesting, I'll be dropping it over on the Twitter and the YouTube shorts. But as far as full streams go, this is our last full stream and podcast for a while. And I got a lot of exciting stuff coming up upon my return. And I'm really looking forward to that. And in the meantime, I'm going to miss y'all. And I hope that you're good to each other. I hope that you are having a wonderful fall. And I'm glad I finally made the announcement on Expatriate. I've been meaning to do that for a while. I announced it over on Patreon, but I don't think I ever formally announced it on a Get Your News On with Ron stream. So I'm announcing it now. It is going to be on hold until I get through my passport pursuits. Once I am finished with that process, which hopefully will be sooner than later, I will revamp this, or I will restart the series. Am I taking Lucy with me to Italy? No, I am not. That would be if I ever moved there. Yes, Lucy would be coming, obviously. But to just take this trip, Lucy is not going to be making the trip. She's been a little fussy. She knows. I mean, she sees the suitcases. She knows. But she is going to have a lot of wonderful, wonderful people who are going to be staying with her and taking care of her while we're gone. So she is in excellent hands. So you do not need to worry about Lucy. She has house sitters. She doesn't just have people popping in. She has straight up people spending, because she's a very social cat. She's the type of cat we have literally at times, we have brought her to friends' apartments before to stay there, because she is actually happier if she has people around her in an unfamiliar environment than she is being in a familiar environment by herself. She's a very social cat, and she does not like being alone. So, she guilt trips us. She really does. I'm not going to lie. There's part of me that I'm just like, especially when she kind of looks at me and I know that she's, I feel guilt, but I'm like, Lucy, your mommy and daddy love you very, very much, but sometimes they need a vacation. And that's just how it goes. But you guys don't need to worry about Lucy. Lucy is in wonderful hands. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing everybody again upon my return. I will miss you in the meantime. 2023 tour dates are going to be announced very soon. I already got a couple things confirmed, and some of the tour dates are going to have screenings of my short film Loner, which that's a short film that's already done. Left at Wall, the movie, Still need to break ground on that, but Loner is already done. It has not been released to the public yet. But if you're a patron on Patreon, you can watch it now. Loner is out. And if you want to join my Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Placone, for a Give What You Can level, you can watch Loner and you can watch my performance as Lucian. I launched a historical interpretation of Lucian the Satirist. That is out now for patrons. I'm not going to be dropping that publicly. That's not going to be dropped publicly. No video of that will be dropped publicly for a very long time. So if you want to check that out, you got to be a patron. But you can join my Patreon for a Give What You Can level. Loner eventually is going to be released publicly. I mean, we're even going to have a couple screenings in 2023, but Lucian will not. So that's the situation there. And then UK, going to come to the UK in 2023. Darren, you say Leeds or York? Definitely. So London next year, what's likely going to happen, I'm going to be doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So I'll be in Edinburgh for a little while. And then I hope to do some stuff in England around that. London is the first on the list, but then I'm hopefully going to do another city or two as well. If I don't get to multiple cities the first time, like if I just do London and Edinburgh, next time I will do a more extensive tour of the UK. That's the plan. But I'm going to try to do a couple cities. I'm going to try to do a couple cities in 2023. In England. And then, of course, Reykjavik, I'm coming back to make up for the festival that I missed. I had to postpone my appearances at the Reykjavik Fringe Festival because I got COVID right before I was supposed to leave. So I'm hoping that in 2023, I will be making that up somehow. I'll either be doing the Fringe Festival or I'll just be doing a show in Reykjavik. And for those of you who said, Ron, we want to plan an Iceland trip around your date, I will be announcing that date as soon as I can. As soon as it is confirmed, I will be announcing it. So that'll give you plenty of time wherever the world you're at. That'll give you plenty of time to plan a trip. And it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome if we all had like a kind of like meet up in Iceland. And I will totally do that. If a bunch of you want to make the trip to Iceland and you get in touch with me and you tell me you're making the trip, we'll do like a meetup at a bar or something. That'd be so freaking cool. I would love that very much. But anyway, in the meantime, you know the drill. I will see you in a couple weeks upon my return. And you know the drill in the meantime. Lucy, she says meow. And I say peace, love, and a general strike. See y'all soon.